Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you are watching this broadcast. Welcome to the S.I.M Factor. I am Tanja E. Withers, your host. Today's topic, sexual sins, part 1. This particular topic is going to be consisted of many different parts. I'm not sure how many right now, but right now we're just going to focus on the introduction. And this particular topic is, especially for Christian singles, one of the most controversial, yet one of the most profound issues that we as Christians suffer with today. I don't even like to say the word suffer. I say that we're challenged by. Especially when you see many images in the world today that uses sex to sell items. You see it on TV. See it on videos, you see it everywhere. It's pretty much in your face on a daily basis, no matter what you do or where you go. And especially for some singles, sex is an issue because even though it's designed for marriage, most of us who have been saved, especially in our adult lives, we was doing our thing before we gave our lives to Christ. So let's face that fact, right? So this particular video, we're going to start with the introduction. And the introduction, it kind of bounces off from the last video that was done, which is, what is your weakness? Now, for some of us, not saying all, it is sex. And most of the time, it begins with a thought. So, with that being said, I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to some books that I think would be so helpful to you, especially in the realm of sexual sins and how we can not only break free from it, overcome it, so that by the time we do go into a marriage, we would have a healthy form of what sex really is. So, first book I want to mention is What's Love Got to Do with It? Power, Love, Sex, and God by Frank A. Thomas. I recommend this book highly, and as you can see, it's very short. So this would be the book to read. This should be in your library. But the book that I found the most profound, the most lengthy, and the most helpful, and I thank God for this man, is called Holy Sex, God's Purpose and Plan for Our Sexuality by Terry Weir. I highly recommend this particular book because of the fact that he breaks down the concept, and he breaks it down biblically on sexual sins, how they begin, how you can overcome it, and by using God's word, that the word can be manifested and change your life and your way of thinking. So, as I stated before, the thought process. Now, the Bible clearly states in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, that we be not conformed to this world, but yet be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So, most times, it begins with a thought. It could be a person that you're attracted to, someone on TV. If you're not careful about that particular thought, that thought could lead to actions, especially when you dwell on that particular thought, whether it be that particular person or whether it be a particular act, things of that nature. Most of the time, it starts here. And if we really break it down, according to most sex therapists, sex itself is usually 80% here and 20% down there. It all begins right up here. So it's important to cast down those imaginations, especially if you have a very vivid imagination like myself. You cannot dwell on certain people, on certain acts. That's why you have to be careful what you watch, what type of music you listen to, because it could take you back. Even the conversations that you carry with some people, you have to be very careful about that, especially if sex and your desire to have it is a weakness for you. Now, as I share in all my other videos, I usually share my testimony. Um, my process was the very thing, the thought. And it could be me admiring someone or wondering what they would be like and things of that nature. If I don't shut that down real quick or I ask God to like remove these things from my mind, it could take me to a place that I don't need to be. And most of the time it's either if you desire somebody, um, either you'll go after that person if you're not careful, or it would lead to visualizing what that person would be like in bed, and therefore end up having masturbation. So it's imperative on how you really take the thought pattern to heart and how you cannot be led to think that way. Because it says in Galatians 5:16 that this I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. And with your thought process, that's exactly what would take place. So I thank God that this is an area that I'm learning myself and that I want to share with all of you who may be struggling with that same issue. That if you that cast down the imaginations, because when it's all said and done, that could be a stronghold, and you don't want any strongholds to hold you down, especially if you're seeking for a mate and you have all these desires and stuff like that. You have to cleanse, you have to purge. This is why the whole analysis of yourself comes into play, and this particular area here of sexual sins is so important. If that is one of your issues, then you really have to take heed to that. So, Proverbs 23:7 pretty much states, for he that thinketh in his heart, so is he. So, with that being said, this series is going to go into different forms and it's going to be in different parts because I want to break down each part to you. So right now, this is the thought process. The next subject is going to be the act and the consequences of the act, physically, emotionally, but most of all, spiritually. So I wanted to bring this introduction to you and show you all that it all begins with the mind. It all begins up here. So if you can take hold of what you have here, then the rest will follow. So as I always say in closing, it is not the quantity of what you do, but it's the quality of how you do it. I pray that you pass this message on to those who needs to hear it. And if you have any questions or topics that you would like for me to address, please email me at thesimfactor@gmail.com. In the meantime, may God's blessings be upon you, and may you have a blessed and beautiful day.